Hi, I'm here at IBM in Kuala Lumpur. I'm with Deva Theyventheran from IBM, and this morning we're going to be talking about financial services companies and the obstacles, challenges and opportunities they face when they think about moving their operations onto cloud platforms. So, Deva, when banks are thinking about cloud, what's the point? What's the attraction? Is it really something that they should be thinking about today?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of banks are thinking in that direction now. As a first step, normally the bank thinks of it from a cost perspective, essentially moving a lot of their capex expenditure into opex. In that way, they have a lot more services that you can get from the cloud, and as opposed to them building and enhancing their infrastructure and everything in their own data center. So that's the first element that typically you look for when the banks are thinking of moving into the cloud. Having said that, the banks will also need to think about the elements of how you operationally increase the efficiency and so on in running on the cloud as well. So there's a whole paradigm change in terms of people, processes and system that needs to go along with it in terms of realizing the true benefit of moving from a capex to opex model into the cloud. Secondly, as you know, is a big digitalization that's going on in banking per se. So the cloud gives them that extra oomph in terms of giving in terms of scalability, flexibility and agility. So very quickly you could scale up and you could do experiments, you could do different POCs and DevOps and agile approach in the cloud. So that's another reason why banks quickly move, because competitors are moving at non-bank competitors typically who are encroaching into the banking space are moving at a much faster pace than what banks are today. So banks are looking at cloud to help them move and give that extra push into that space. Thirdly, really is about the whole transformation piece that is looking at that. If you think about it, a lot of the banks carry legacy applications which are aged and they're looking to transform, modernize and capture the best that they can and re-architect the applications. And I think that is the time they take the opportunity to see how they can move some of these workloads off from their own premises. It could be a private, public or hybrid cloud, but at least give them the opportunity to have that flexibility of moving into that. And of course, from a security and a compliance perspective, a lot of central banks have also come up with regulations around that. And cloud providers, it's kind of an oxymoron, but cloud providers today have actually, spent a lot of R&D and effort and investments into enhancing securities and also providing the compliance required to meet that stringent rules of central banks.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you about is obviously a lot of companies see the attraction of moving to cloud for some of the reasons you've just said, but for financial services and banks in particular, I guess things like the real sensitivity of the data they've got is an obstacle. So when you are speaking to banks in general, what are the things that they really worry about when you try and start a cloud conversation?
So top of their mind would be security and data privacy and data confidentiality, because their worry is the moment things are not in control. They have this policy that the moment it's in the cloud, it's not in control. And I think central banks have also evolved over time. If you look in the region or globally, there's new guidelines that have come to allow you to put workloads into the cloud. So the banks have looked at typically they're risk averse being bankers. So they start being very risk averse, but they don't want to be leading, but they have wait and see. And I think the loads have slowly over time have shifted. So they start off with testing, for example, DevOps, for example. There's some enterprise applications that are readily put on the cloud. For example, Workday, Salesforce, and a whole bunch of others that are running on cloud. And banks are already starting to embrace that and tap that energy or the power or the innovation that's coming out from the cloud services. So from that perspective, new guidelines have also come, even in Malaysia and Singapore and in the region, where actually you could move a lot of these workloads to the cloud following certain guidelines, following certain risk assessments and things that have been done. So cleverly, a lot of banks have moved workloads there while keeping data. Some of them have started out by, they take a stepped approach, keeping data within their premise or within their cloud or within their environment. But a lot of the applications and other workloads, computing powers, data, is put on the cloud.
Like a hybrid approach.
Yeah, like a hybrid
approach.
approach.
Data still in the actually on-premise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've never seen a bank move entire core banking into a cloud. But rest of the thing in terms of machine learning, real data analytics, artificial intelligence, IoT, for example, in insurance telemetry, a lot of the information needs to work in your ecosystem out there. So banking is in the background, but a lot of it is lifestyle things that happens, and the whole environment is in the cloud.
Okay, so interesting, and that's fine when we're talking about concepts, but have you got examples of where IBM specifically have actually taken a bank through this whole journey to cloud and into cloud? So is there anything that you can actually point to you and say, hey, yeah, we've done this?
Yeah, so looking at our experience and our credentials, we've helped a whole bunch of banks globally in moving into the cloud. I think one top of the mind is BNP Paribas, where they actually moved some of their DevOps into the cloud, and then now looking at moving more and more applications into the cloud. So they're doing it in a very smart, intelligent way, right? Modernizing the applications, moving those workloads into the cloud, and some of them actually into public cloud, and then building a hybrid structure around it. That's one real success story with BNP Paribas. Another one I could think of, I think IBM was the first to actually create this for financial services only, first of a kind public cloud. Which the first participant or the first player to come in was Bank of America. So Bank of America, as you know, is one of the largest banks globally. So they have like 66 million customers. So they are starting to move a lot of their workloads into this publicly ready financial services cloud. What does that mean? Financial services ready means you take into account all the compliance requirements, regulatory requirements, and all the other banking needs that is required to put workloads into the cloud. And you build this cloud which is ready, where then other banks can start tapping on it as well and grow from there. So these are two that come top of the minds. Of course, there are other banks in the region, in Australia, Singapore, and so on, has also moved into the cloud story. Typically, they start again with a smaller private cloud approach, putting some workloads there. But over time, you've seen them moving more and more of their applications into the cloud as well.
So does IBM have any best practice for helping financial services companies on their journey to cloud?
Yes, so IBM, as you know, with the acquisition of Red Hat, journey to cloud is one of our biggest offerings in IBM. So we actually advise almost 47 of the 50 largest banks in the world. So we take this journey to cloud into these 4 pillars, which is advisory, manage, build, and move. So depending on where the organization is, there's not one size that fits all. So IBM has customized approach in all these 4 pillars to help you move into cloud. And within that, there are like 14 different stages that we could help and services that we help in each of those pillars. So given that, if you need anything or if you need IBM will be more than happy to come talk to you in terms of helping you in this journey as you move across and help you embrace all the benefits that you can get from this journey.
Really appreciate your time today, Deva Theyventheran, and if you want to find out any more about some of the things that we've been discussing today, we've got a lot of other materials on Disruptive Tech ASEAN that you can research and look at. But for now, thanks again for your time, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much.